the Carolina Panthers hired Matt Rhule to be their next head coach. And, you know, I love this hire so much. I feel very, like, calm and peaceful about it. I'm like, this is a good move. Like, you ever have a glass, like, you drink caffeine, you drink a drink of Coke, and it hits you. There's some kick. You drink a glass of water, it just goes down easy. It's peaceful. That's how I feel about Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule is it's a nice drink of water. That's a good move. I know it's a silly analogy, but I really feel good about it. A lot of peace there. Matt Rhule, if you don't know, he's the head coach who turned around Temple. He's also the head coach who turned around Baylor. And this is more really, the more I heard and learned about Matt Rhule and the way that this process worked, the more that it made me just a gigantic fan of the Panthers owner, David Tepper. He's a great owner. He's doing a great job. And this was a big move for David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers. He went out, he got his guy. 2 years ago when David Tepper bought the Carolina Panthers, he waited 2 years. He bought the Panthers, and then he sat and he did nothing. He changed the business side of the Panthers, but he hadn't touched the football operations side. He waited 2 years before he got rid of Ron Rivera. He waited till Ron Rivera wasn't winning, and he let Ron Rivera play it out. He got rid of Ron Rivera, the old head coach, who I think is not a miserable, awful head coach, but he wasn't David Tepper's guy. David Tepper, the Panthers owner, wanted to bring in his guy, the person he believed in and he chose. And so that's what he did. He brought in Matt Rhule. And I really, first of all, want to admire David Tepper's patience with Ron Rivera, the former head coach, taking his time and waiting till the right opportunity to fire Ron Rivera rather than rushing to fire him and get rid of him and move on. But also, David Tepper made a gigantic statement by hiring Matt Rhule and the way he did it. He gave him a 7-year contract worth $60 million. Now, that's not actually a 7-year contract. It's really probably a 4 or 5 year contract. Because if year 4, Matt Rhule is like 0-16, he's going to get fired. He's not going to last 7 years unless he wins. But most coaches in the NFL level especially get 2 years. And so the fact that Matt Rhule probably has 4 years to make this happen is a big deal. And it's a different energy. David Tepper made a big statement. Number one, we really want you. Here's a ton of money. Come be our head coach. But number two, he said, here's 7 years. We're going to give you, the message is we're going to give you patience. We're going to give you time to build the Panthers the right way. And that is so, so awesome. So Panthers fans, I ask you to give Matt Rhule patience, give him time. You got to look back at the history of Matt Rhule. He went to Temple, turned Temple around, but the first year at Temple, they lost a bunch. I think they went 2-10. Then look back at his first year at Baylor, they went 1-11. So it takes time for Matt Rhule to turn things around. But if you give it time, it could actually work. And so I really believe that the Panthers hit a home run and got an incredible, incredible head coach. He was expected to go to the New York Giants, and the Panthers being able to snag him and pull him in says a lot to me about the Panthers ownership and a lot about David Tepper. Now, I want to talk about, Matt Rhule's opening introductory press conference. First of all, it made me love David Tepper even more, the owner of the Panthers. He walked out to his walk-up music, because he got walk-up music as if you were playing baseball and you go up to the batter's box. David Tepper's walk-up music was Thunder by Imagine Dragons, and I was like, man, this old dude, he gets it. Like, he just is a cool man I'd love to get a beer with. And it's really interesting that Matt Rhule, when he was speaking at his press conference, the energy from Matt Rhule was so different, was so much more measured than Joe Judge. Joe Judge was really intense. He had something to prove. He had kind of a scowl. He looked defensive really the whole time, like he's ready to get into a fight. And in contrast, Matt Rhule was totally comfortable. He was totally honest, totally kind of humble and gracious. He took his time, wasn't in a hurry to speak. I loved when he talked about using sports science to help his players and care for his players and to help them extend their careers. It's really clear that Matt Rhule cares about people. He cares about the people above him, his bosses. He also cares about the people that are going to work for him with the Carolina Panthers. And you can also tell he just loves football. He loves the process. He loves building something. And so I was so impressed with who am I saying? Matt Rhule. He's a fantastic speaker. He's very intentional with everything he does. And I'm not sure that Joe Judge, the new head coaching hire with the New York Giants, is going to succeed. I don't know that Joe Judge is going to make it happen. I hope so, but I don't know. I'm very certain that, I have a gut feeling and a good feeling that I have no doubt Matt Rhule is going to succeed with the Carolina Panthers. It's all in place. I mean, he really, his energy, the system they have in place, all of it makes sense to me. Just give him some time. Again, give him time to develop, give him time to build it. And I think that the ownership, the head coach, Matt Rhule, the general manager, Marty Herney, the owner, David Tepper, they're all aligned and they're all headed in the same direction. And so that's really going to be a huge advantage. And, it's cool to watch them interact on stage, the owner, the general manager, and the head coach. The press conference ends and they go to take pictures on the side and they're laughing and they clearly enjoy each other's company. They have a good relationship and good rapport. And I was like, that's awesome. That's really healthy. On screen, it leaks out. Like, that's really, really cool. And so, and then the way that they tell stories about each other, they tell stories about the way they met each other, the way they visited each other in Texas, and the hiring process of Matt Rhule. It's clear they all like each other and get along really well. That's going to speak volumes to the future of the Carolina Panthers. And so there's one last thing, two things he said that I liked at the end. Number one, Matt Rhule showed a ton of self-awareness at the end of his press conference when he said that one of the things he really wants to do, and he said he's done it at every stop he's been, whether it was at Temple or Baylor or now here with the Carolina Panthers, is he wants to bring in a veteran coach, a guy who's been around, who can work with him and mentor him. And the humility of that statement to say, I want to bring in a veteran guy who knows potentially more than I do, to challenge me, to say no to me. I've talked about this before. Limitations are really important. One of the reasons why I believe that the Phantom Menace, Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, the reboot series, the first of the prequel series of Star Wars, the reason why the Phantom Menace was so bad and had really bad mistakes like Jar Jar Binks, which is a horrible character I really, really hate, is because the guy who made the movies, George Lucas, had nobody telling him no. There was not a single person that said, I think Jar Jar Binks is a misstep and a bad idea. He had complete power. And when you have complete power, that can actually be very, very dangerous. And so the fact that Matt Rhule understands, I got to bring in a veteran guy who might know more than I do, or even if I don't agree with everything he says, can at least offer a different veteran's perspective than I have, someone who's been there, done that before. I think that would be really smart for Matt Rhule. He's going to do that. And one guy I would suggest hiring is the old Wade Phillips, the old defensive coordinator of the LA Rams. Wade Phillips' contract did not get extended by the LA Rams. I say, hey, if I'm Matt Rhule, bring in Wade Phillips as an advisor just to help lead and help to mentor Matt Rhule. That's a great maybe person that could be there. Maybe Bill Parcells. I have no idea. But Matt Rhule has the clear intention to bring in a veteran mentor for him. And that's a really, really smart, really, really humble move that shows a lot of maturity and wisdom by Matt Rhule. The other thing he said is he addressed the players and he said, I'm not perfect. Matt Rhule said, I'm not perfect, but I do my best. And I'm going to do my best every single day for the players. And man, I just was like, this dude gets it. And the pace with which he talks, he's not in a hurry. He's just a great public speaker, man. I'm so interested and engaged. And the poise, I just can't say enough good things. I really feel good about Matt Rhule. And he understands leadership. He knows he needs to get help to succeed. All of it, man. I think Matt Rhule is a great hire for the Carolina Panthers. And I cannot wait to see how he does moving forward.